Clear to engage. Time on target. 5 mics. Out.
All right, Brian, this has to be a zero edits so I can just take the file and publish it.
Uh-oh, here we go.
It is 9:50 p.m. on Tuesday, November 5th. The election is ongoing in some states, but currently Trump is ahead in most of the blue wall states. He has claimed Georgia and
Oh,
North Carolina. Yeah, all of them. Yes, that's right. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
they just called Georgia for him.
Just called Georgia for them. I think they'll do it slowly just because they're worried about what the outstanding vote looks like and if it's coming
Yeah.
from urban areas. But
Well, they had egg on their face with Georgia last time, so I think they're a little cautious, but I just saw that they've called it for Trump.
so right now, I would say it's pretty easy to say you'd rather be Trump than Harris. Not that she doesn't have any
Yes.
paths, but that you'd rather be Trump than Harris.
Yeah.
The AP has called at least 51 Senate seats for the Republicans, but they're ahead in the Senate seats in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And that's 54 Senate seats, I think, which
But
once again is Mitch McConnell delivers for America.
but yes, you're a hero. Clearly we took the US Senate. I think the House is going to be razor thin.
Yes.
I mean, how can you have 450 House seats in America and we're literally divided down the middle? That is amazing to me. So it tells
I
us
did
the electoral college actually does work.
I did read something that said that there's a couple of close California seats, and California takes just an enormous amount of time to count votes. So the Republican path to a majority in the House is not completely over, but they lost some, like Bacon in Nebraska. Miller Meeks is very close in Iowa.
Mhm.
They're losing some of the New York guys. They're obviously losing some seats where the maps got redrawn and they got harder for them. But I would say Democrats are right now considered the favorites to take the House slightly. And I'm not ready to take a victory lap on my prediction yet till we see it. But right now it does look like I was correct in a lot of ways. If Trump wins and we win the Senate and Democrats win the House, that's basically what I predicted. I don't know if that's for the reasons that I predicted it in terms of the chaos in the House, but it is looking like we're going that direction.
Yeah, it was a great prediction, Reagan. I really think it was one. I wasn't really on your same bandwagon, but you were right. Mitch McConnell in his final victory lap, and I think it's the Senate is huge because here's why. And I was actually this is a good pivot into our Senate stuff. I was just talking to Senator Anderson, who is, winning his state Senate seat, but we were talking about the US Senate and why it matters to have a Republican U.S. Senate at a narrow margin because all of the craziness that the Democrats were throwing at the world, the fear mongering, when you have a solid, very slim minority or slim majority in the U.S. Senate, they're going to make sure that none of that stuff is crazy. None of that stuff goes through. They're not going to they're going to just make sure that we have good, sound policies that are working in America. We're going to secure the border. We're going to lower taxes. We're going to do the things we need to do to make America great again. And I think you got to have a solid U.S. Senate to do that. And I think we do. And we're also going to make sure that we're not doing things going off the radar that we're afraid of with Trump. So that's my thought process on it. So converting to the state, what do you see in Reagan? Give me your rundown.
All right, here's the rundown. The federal level, Donald Trump does not win Oregon. Looks like 55-41, almost 42. He might
Yep.
actually pick up a point or two from his 2020,
Joe
but
Ray
not,
line.
yeah, the Joe Ray line, basically. I was sort of expecting, here's what I did get wrong. I was sort of expecting him to split the difference between 2020 and 2016. Very much a 2020 performance.
Mhm.
Not, and as we see, as we look down ballot, it didn't. I mean, there's no coattails to ride in Oregon with Trump. Monique Despain
No.
loses 53-43. That seat continues to perform. Currently, Chavez Dreamer down 48 almost to 45 and a half. It's about 7,000 votes. And the independent Brett Smith taking 11,000 votes, Sonia Fitesh taking 3,400. That's going to be very close. And it really depends on what's left in Clackamas. And that's pretty much all that she's got potentially to help her. Mike Erickson loses 53-46. And that's all she wrote for federal. Statewide contests, Tobias Reed 54-43 over Linthicum. Steiner beats Boquist 49-44. Rayfield defeats Lathrop 53-46. The only difference in the Boquist race is just that third party candidate taking almost 6%. But those just break down the statewide line basically. Lathrop gains a couple of points for campaigning hard and spending some money, looks like.
Yeah, I would think that Will ran a good race. I would say
Mm-hmm.
that he should be pretty, I mean, he got above that, he got more than Drazen did running for governor. He got above the 45% line, which is pretty tough to do, really. Statewide, I think that's pretty, and we're not done yet, right? I mean, what are we at 40? We're at like 50% turnout at this point.
Right.
Statewide, there's probably another 500,000 ballots or so out there,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to assume the current trend
Right.
sticks. So at 120,000 votes behind, there's no way he picks up that number because he would have to win that, what, 80-20 with whatever's
Yeah,
out there. So
it
that's
would
not going
have.
to happen. But 40, I mean, as I'm looking at it now, 46.26%. That's great, man. I mean, that's great. Hopefully he does something with that.
That's what I was gonna say. Maybe he has the opportunity to run for like county commission or some other, key law enforcement role or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he can run and win the DA seat. He could do some good with that number and turn that into something. So he should leverage that. Before we leave statewide, the ballot measures,
Yes.
honestly couldn't get any better. We're gonna pass Measure 115 to do impeachment. Oregon becomes the final state to include impeachment in our Constitution, and it passes by a wide margin. And Republicans fought for that and won that in the walkout. Measure 116, Independent Public Service Compensation Commission. No, thank you, says Oregon, 53-47. Nobody likes paying people in public service more money. I think that's a conversation you take up when the economy is good, not when the economy is medium to bad. Ranked choice voting. I thought that this was going to be a close victory or a close loss. This is not close. This is 60-40. And I got a text from, and I mean, it's failing everywhere. I got to scroll down to Multnomah to see how it's doing there.
Yeah.
Barely passing 53-46 in Multnomah County. I got a text from Jake Pelroy, and he said, Lane County absolutely destroying ranked choice voting. And that's when I was like, oh, this thing's going down then, because you can't
Yep.
you can't win a statewide ballot measure with just Multnomah County. If every other county goes against you, you get
It's
35 counties. There's no way to overcome that.
It's so wonderful, and we talked about this one on the pod. Actually, we talked about it with John Horvick, just
Yeah,
last week, and well, this was one prediction you got wrong, but in a good way, you got it
in a
wrong in a
good
good
way.
way. Like
Totally.
it went, and I really do believe that people looked at those Portland ballots
Mm.
with all of 119. That's what I heard it today. 119 people running for Portland City Council, and they had to rank
Wow.
them. I think people they're like, no way. There's just no way. And it's so difficult and so unseemly. What did you guys spend? I mean, you were a little bit involved. There's a few people working on it, but I think
Like $25,000, Brian.
yeah,
We did not have big money. It was a website, and it was some signs, and it was some social media,
so
and
great.
the grassroots just ran with that, I think.
Against
on
7 million?
against millions of dollars. I was trying to load up Or Star, but it wasn't working.
I think it was
So
about 7 million, I heard. So
yeah, and I think here's the key here, though. This money was not, they didn't have a lot of people going out that were champions for this. They were just had spokespeople on mailers. And I mean, I learned this in my Albany races. I've got one of my Albany races in North Albany. We're not even close. And then the one that we thought was going to be an easy win, we were down in the first drop by 9 votes, and in the second drop we're ahead by 4 votes. So the boots on the ground thing really matters. You can't just slap some mail together and win these races. It really requires some really solid, canvassing
yeah.
and work to go out and win. And I think measure the ESL 117 guys, they send a lot of nice mail, but no. Measure 118, holy smokes. Nobody wants this tax. 78-21.
Awesome.
Once again, you got to hand it to the folks over there at OBI. They put in basically an 80-20 up on that Salem city tax, and then they did it statewide too. Very impressive work there. Oregonians are really done being experimented on, I think, is
Yeah, I
the
think that's
narrative
great.
here.
My take on that was, well, one, yeah, definitely congrats to the coalition that they pulled together on that thing. I mean, just an amazing group of people. I know OBI led that effort, and good job to those guys to really driving that thing home. And I think running it up like they did said, stop experimenting with your crap in Oregon. Go to Washington, go somewhere else, go to Minnesota, don't come here. And that's great.
All right. Now to the legislature. Basically, all the incumbents are going to win their races, except the closest two races
Yeah.
are basically Jeff Helfrich in House District 52. He's currently a couple of votes behind. What's the margin on that one, Brian, right now?
I'm
Oh,
looking at
hold
12.
on, actually. I'm pulling the results up and he's showing ahead now slightly. 50.21 to 49.7.
Yeah.
So
100
that's
votes
good
ish.
news
Yeah.
because I think it's unlikely that reverses back. But we'll see with the late drops. That's obviously one to pay attention to. And
140
then
votes roughly at
yeah,
this point. It's a tough one. I think Hood River County really came in early on that one, and then I think which
right.
blew part of that district, and Multnomah County did another update, which he's got a good portion of Multnomah County, so he should pull it out. But it's a lot tighter than they were expecting. That's clear.
Yep. And then the next closest one I think is Javity, followed by Javity, who will win a 51-49, and then John Masterman and Hua win 52-48. And then the Salem seats, Kramer and Mannix, they'll both pull through as well. Those are similar margins.
Yeah, I mean we're in and up basically where we started.
Yeah. Yep.
I think in the House it's the Javity seat, on the coast, the North Coast was always very sticky, always very, it's just it's just very divided, right? I mean, I think that Representative Javity did up his margin a hair
Yeah.
from 2 years ago. I mean, what we're looking at now, right? So, I mean, that'll probably change a little bit over the course of the next couple of days. But I think that the results aren't changing. If not, they're skewing a little better for him.
So, condolences to our friend Ben Bowman. He doesn't get the super added to his majority leader title, it looks
Nope.
like this time. Very much a stalemate type of election. And I think important for the state, especially because the Senate appears to go into a super minority. This is just not the good map for Republicans. But I do think that it is going to be hard under the current map for Republicans to win a majority in the Senate. We could probably get to 17, 13, 16, 14 with a couple of seats, but it's a tough one. It's gerrymandered and it's doing what it's designed to do.
Yes, I think so. I think it's it truly is a bummer to see Senator Knope's seat go to the Democrats. We knew Deschutes County was trending blue. I think it is very clear that this cycle that Deschutes County is pretty much lost.
Yep.
Blue side.
And that's a problem. That's become a problem for Chavez-DeRemer. It's a problem for these legislative seats. It's a problem statewide. Republicans need Deschutes County to be red, and Clackamas also. I mean, we'll get into more races, but Clackamas has fallen basically. State, countywide. Tootie Smith is going to defeat Mark Scholl close. There's a good chunk of ballots still out there, is what I've heard, just because of how slow they're counting. So if they broke hard for Scholl, he might be able to pull through. But even then, the margins are not what you want to see there.
Yeah.
So
that's
we
very
need
interesting to me to see the Clackamas County stuff, because it was really trending red. And then, I don't know if it's the fear mongering or the abortion stuff that really kind of pulled it back, to the left. But we're gonna have to do some more digging to really see what happened there. So
I think the key will be to look county by county, house district by house district. Where did Trump do better and where did he do worse? Were there any trends there? Because that'll basically tell us where the battlegrounds are in the next 2 and 4 years as we finish out the decade on this particular redistricting map.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I think no real other surprises. I mean, I think like local races, I didn't really see a bunch of surprises.
Yep. Lindsay Bershauer in a tight race for not Clackamas, Yamhill County Commission. She's down about 400 votes, but I'm told there's several thousand left to count there, so that one can tighten potentially. So we'll see on that one. But I think this is the other problem, though. If Yamhill starts to not become as red as it once was, we do have some serious problems.
Yeah, the map just is not looking much better. So we would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to our fellow staffer Christopher McMoran, who won the Philomath mayor race. I think he would be pissed because we didn't cover it beforehand, but he went ahead and won it anyways. I looked at that one, Chris. I was watching to see what
he was tweeting at us. Absolutely. Yep.
They he loves that community, and he's really actually, he's going to stand tall for Philomath, and man, is he tall.
He could sit tall for Philomath, Brian.
Yes, as long as he supports our bill to widen Highway 34 from to Corvallis, I'll be a big fan. So that's my shout. Now as we move into policy, that'll be my shout.
Brian, Fox News Decision Desk says they will be making calls soon on Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I do not think that that's likely to mean good news for Harris. 10 p.m.
Imagine.
10 p.m. means Nevada results incoming. So I'm going to get this podcast out and I'm going to get back to watching the election results at least for another hour or two.
Do it. Give us a couple of days and then we'll circle back and do another one and do it because I think we'll know by Thursday. Usually by Wednesday evening, we're probably 95-97% voters return all of their stuff, and then we're not going to see any more changes. So look for a podcast Thursday, Friday, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me tonight, Brian.